Hey guys, I'm Barb and welcome to episode 24 of Creators Campfire. Tonight I'm joined by a very special guest, someone who I've been watching on YouTube for a long time, is Chris Lawley. Chris, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. This is very cool for me. Like I was just saying, I have been watching you for a long time and I love your videos in general and your content, but the way you do everything on an iPad is so inspirational to me. It's like, wow, it's something I haven't quite mastered yet. I'm definitely a 3-device person: phone, iPad, and Mac. But I love how you've mastered it, and maybe one day I'll get there. But no, super nice to have you on. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, and not everyone's gonna master, working from an iPad full time, and that's totally okay. You can have a Mac. You can still, I still use an iPhone too. It's right here, like nothing. It's not a big deal. But yeah, no, I'm somebody that enjoys working from an iPad.
Yeah. No, I love my iPad, but I think it's ended up being a media device, which is ridiculous for how much it is. But I'm slowly venturing over with the keyboard and the pencil and stuff.
That's how a lot of iPads started out for me. I think until about iOS 9, when Apple first started adding specific iPad features to iOS, it was just a media device for me. I would use it for reading, watching videos. Really, there wasn't anything that special about it for me. I didn't use it for anything productivity wise other than just I had my task manager on there or something. It was really iOS 9 was when it started kind of clicking for me.
Right. Okay. So I guess obviously your content is around the iPad, and obviously it touches on iOS naturally and productivity. But how did you kind of start? What was where did this journey begin?
So I had a really terrible day job. I worked for it wasn't a great job, and I was bored. I was starved creatively, and I was bored out of my mind. So I knew I wanted to create a project, and it started off as a blog, and I realized I was a terrible writer. I can't write to save my life, so I stopped doing that. And I've always had a passion for doing video stuff. I started doing stop motion movies, Lego movies, when I was 12. All I had was a webcam and some free video software or something like that, and I would just make videos from that. So I kind of got back into that, and I was just really curious about YouTube, and I was starting to watch a lot more. I was kind of one of those weird people that I just never got into YouTube until way after I started doing YouTube. I don't know why, but yeah, I wanted a video project. I wanted to create a project. I needed a creative outlet. I'm somebody that's creative naturally, and I just have to have that kind of an outlet. So that's kind of where the YouTube channel started, and it's evolved a little bit from its original idea. It started off as a place where I was just going to talk about apps and how you can use apps. And I was and I got into that, and I realized, oh, hey, there's not enough apps coming out for me to just make content on that. So I kind of evolved it a little more. I talked about workflow at the time, now shortcuts. I talked about hardware like iPads and accessories and things like that. And it became a more, I don't want to say a general tech channel, because it's definitely focused on the iPad, but I opened it up to more than just apps.
Yeah. So am I right in saying you've been doing this since about 2015? So it's been sort of 5+ years, or?
I think 26. I don't remember. It was
it's been a while.
It's been about 4 or 5 years. I don't remember exactly when I started. But yeah, it's been a little while. And it started off as a hobby for me. It really wasn't something I took super seriously. It was just something I wanted to do. And then about a year or so ago, I started getting a lot more serious about it, and I started treating it as a business.
Right. So at the beginning, it's just a creative outlet. You've got no particular plan. It's stuff that you like, and you're like, okay, well, it's just a hobby, right? There's no particular strategy necessarily behind it. So what made you kind of change your mind and want to take it more seriously, I suppose?
I decided so my day job is on IT. I'm the network admin, and it's boring. I'm bored of it. I enjoy doing YouTube. I enjoy doing creative stuff. So I kind of got to the point where, well, why not make this my full-time job? So that's what I'm working towards right now. I'm not quite there yet to pull that trigger full time, but hopefully soon.
Okay, so that's super cool. So yeah, I've got like 10 questions off the back of that. Let me try and prioritize these. So obviously, okay, I'm going to start on the part-time thing. So obviously working a full-time job and then doing YouTube on the side is obviously, it's time consuming. You've got a full-time job and you then have to do it. So firstly, how do you kind of balance the two? I'm talking maybe like before you got serious, like how was it? Did you still have a routine and stuff? Were you still, I have to do this, this, and this? Or was it a bit more, I'll do it when I want to do it, and it's a bit more whenever?
I'm terrible about balancing work and life and managing time. But when I first started off, my goal was to make a video a week. So usually like I would kind of write a script throughout the week. And then on the weekends, I would record and edit a video on Saturday and then upload on Sunday. And that was fine for a while. But if you want to do YouTube full time, you kind of have to get over doing just one video a week, unless you're really lucky and get a big audience right away. And that's what they come to expect. For me personally, I usually see a lot of growth when I start posting like 2 or 3 times a week, which is a lot harder when you have a full-time job. There's a lot of, I don't want to say sacrifices, but I don't know what a better word would be. When it comes to like trying to have both a full-time job and make a full-time career out of a side hustle. So yeah, I'm not the greatest at balancing times. I will just work all the time and then I'll burn out and then you won't see any videos for a while and then I'll make a whole bunch of videos and then I'll burn out again. So I'm not the best at figuring out balancing time. It's something I still haven't figured out.
Right. Okay. But it sounds like it's never really lack of motivation or anything. So this is obviously something I guess what I've learned is when you really enjoy something, it doesn't feel like work, right? So
yeah, and I would agree with that. Like if I was just doing YouTube full time, I don't think I would have a burnout issue. But because I'm trying to balance essentially 2 full-time jobs, because I work 40 hours a week at my day job, and then I work practically 40 hours a week doing YouTube stuff. If you like count making videos and doing all the business stuff and things like that, that's about another 40 hours a week. So 80 hours a week of work, that's quite a bit. And that's pretty easy to burn out over. So when you're trying to balance the two, yeah, but I keep saying balance, and that's the key really is finding a good balance. I know what I'm doing right now is not healthy, but I also know it's not permanent. So I'm hoping to kind of like ramp up, get to the spot where I could do YouTube full time, and then I can ease myself back into a more normal schedule.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, because I guess so for me thinking, and I'm clearly not a YouTuber, but it's always been in the back of my mind to be one. But I'm always like, where am I going to find the time? Because full-time job and then doing that, and it's that balance between when it's a hobby, like you said, it's like I could do a video a week, or if I miss a week, it's not really a thing. But if I'm working towards making it full time, it's a whole different game.
Mm-hmm.
How do you? Sorry, go on.
No. I was just agreeing. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Yeah. So I guess if we just take it back a step to when you started, did you? There are obviously stats and numbers and things, and obviously when you're doing it just as a hobby, do you care about those things? Do you have to worry about finding a niche or sticking to a particular topic, or because it's a hobby, it's whatever you feel like doing that week?
When I first started, I did not care about stats. I just wanted a creative project. I tried a bunch of different things. I mentioned the apps, but I also tried like vlogging and kind of doing like Apple News related stuff. And that stuff didn't really stick. Those videos you can't find them anymore. I've unlisted them. Nobody should ever want to see them. They're bad. They're not good. So I tried a bunch of different things to see what would stick. And the apps thing was the one that definitely did the best for me. And then I started moving into like iPad stuff and iPad productivity. And that's when things kind of really started to take off for me.
Right. Okay.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, I was just gonna add on there. It really is about finding your niche and what you're interested in and what you want to focus on. Like you want you're to make interesting content, you have to be excited about the content. I couldn't make content about cooking because I'm a terrible cook and I hate cooking. So I couldn't make interesting content around that. It's something you need to be excited about in order to make interesting content.
So how much did you, so obviously when you're trying to kind of find out what works and what doesn't work, how much of an influence do you let that have on what you like? So is it more of a case of, actually, I like all of these things, but I can narrow it down to one particular one? Or is it nothing that I really like works, so I'm going to move a little bit out of my comfort zone and try and find a compromise?
That's a good question. I think it's probably a little bit of both, maybe. Like you like I said, you need to be excited about what you do. I can't make cooking content. I couldn't make like family vlogs or anything like that. Like it wouldn't work for the kind of stuff that I'm interested in. But like yeah, I guess you would need to find your niche a little bit. I guess I'm kind of lucky. Like there really wasn't iPad YouTube, but when I started, like there really wasn't any YouTubers that were talking specifically about the iPad when I started. But now there's a lot of other people, and we've kind of made this area that people are interested in. Like there are a lot of people that talk about the iPad, maybe not necessarily exclusively. I don't even necessarily do it exclusively. I'll talk about keyboards and backpacks and other things too. But I get, man, I don't know. Like now that you got me thinking about this, and I'm just like, I don't know. But yeah, I guess, I guess it would be finding a happy medium, seeing what works. Like I tried my hand at vlogging and I wasn't any good at it. Like I just didn't have a very interesting life. Like I was like, okay, yeah, I'm watching this movie. Here's my thoughts on this movie. And it wasn't that interesting. So I guess it is trying different things. Don't feel like just because you start off doing one thing, you're forever stuck doing that one thing. You can try other things. I mean, I'm 4 or 5 years into this now and I'm still trying different things.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. I get you're still within the realms of what you like.
Yes.
It's not like you said, you haven't completely gone off and started something totally different.
Yes. That's a much better way of putting it. Yes. Yeah. I'm still in the realm of things I like. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. That makes sense. So when you decided that you were going to start really taking it seriously and kind of wanting to make it full time, what shifted, or what kind of changes did you make? What does that look like to then go, okay, hang on, I'm fully 100% in this now?
I've started considering like what the business model of my channel would be. I know this isn't anything super exciting, but I haven't done it yet. I haven't done one yet, but I'm starting to talk to some people about doing like sponsorships on my channel. So like me reading ads, because YouTube AdSense does not pay well at all. Like you can't make a living just from YouTube AdSense unless you have a massive following, and it just doesn't work. So I've started looking at the business model of my channel, but also taking the money I do make and investing that back into the channel. Like when it comes to gear. So like earlier this year, I bought a nice light. I bought this microphone, things like that, to kind of take that money that I was making, put it back so I can really up the quality of my videos and really take my work one step further.
Yeah. And I guess kind of like what we were saying earlier, that potentially takes a toll on sort of like the work, I'm going to say lack of balance, but it is still a balance. So it's obviously you're still working full time, and all of a sudden you might have been doing 40 hours a week at work and 20 hours of YouTube, and now you're doing 40 and 40.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of trying to manage that, I suppose.
Yeah. One thing that I've been doing a lot of is time tracking. So I've been using a service called Toggle and an app called Timery. And I track my time and where I'm spending it. So I try and have specific cutoffs. So like weekdays, I don't work past 9 p.m. So I usually get up about 5 a.m. I'll go for a run. I know 5 a.m. It's early. No, but I do it because nobody's up, because nobody should ever see me run. I'm a terrible runner. I'm an awkward runner. Nobody should ever see me run. But I get up at 5 a.m. I go for a run, and then usually by 7 I'm working. So from like 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So it's about a 14-hour day. Really 12 hours, because I'll take some breaks. I'll eat lunch, I'll eat dinner throughout there and stuff like that. But it's about a 12-hour day on weekdays, and then weekends. Saturday I'll like work all day. But Sundays I try and be a little more relaxed. I put out a video this morning. We're doing this podcast, but I try and make Sundays a little bit more of an easier, relaxed day. Watch movies, things like that. That way I have a little bit of a break every week.
Yeah. Okay. So you've still got that. So there is balance there.
Yeah, but I've had to force that upon myself. Like
Right.
that, this is something that's pretty new, is especially when it comes to Sundays, because I saw Sundays as a free day that I wasn't at my day job, that I could put all that time into working on YouTube stuff. And when I did that, I ended up burning out. So again, balance.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously, to put a YouTube video out there, there are a lot of steps in the process, right? You need to have an idea, you need to create some sort of script 9 times out of 10 for that video. You then need to film it, and there's the setup of the filming, and then you need to edit it and get it out. So 2 questions, and I'll try and remember the second one when I get to it. When you first started out, how did you kind of find that process? Did you know what you were doing? Did it take a long time to kind of learn and create a workflow almost?
It started off with just like me breaking down the steps. So like I knew the beginning, the process that was, I needed an idea, like you said, and at the end of the process, I needed to upload a video to YouTube. So I kind of just worked backwards and filled in all the steps. So I knew, okay, well, in order to upload a video, I need to edit a video. Well, in order to edit a video, I need to film a video. In order to film a video, I need to write like a script or an outline or something like that. So it was kind of just like taking those steps and working backwards. And I've refined the process a lot over the years. Some of my videos, some of my older videos, if you go back, you'll never see me in the video. It's just me reading a script, and then you'll see like my iPad or iPhone or something. You'll never see me. And I've started to kind of pull back on that, like the whole scripted aspect of my videos. And I've started just writing an outline and filming a talking head. So it'd just be me talking into the camera, and then I'll film B-roll to go over that. So the process could change. Just because you start doing something at the beginning doesn't mean you always have to do it that way.
Yeah. Okay. I guess it's an evolution over time, right? And you will naturally find your rhythm over time. So the second part was, is there a particular part of the process you either enjoy or absolutely hate?
Okay, so the part that I hate is writing a shot list. So what I've been doing recently is I was just saying, I record a talking head, then I edit the talking head part, and then what I'll do is I'll write a shot list for all the shots that you need to film B-roll for. And I don't know why, I just hate doing it. It's the thing, it doesn't take me very long. It's usually about double the length of the video. So if the video is 10 minutes long, it usually takes me about 20-25 minutes. Not that long.
Yeah.
I just hate doing it for some reason. But my absolute favorite part is definitely editing. I've always really enjoyed editing. It's where I feel like you can get really creative. And that's just a lot of fun. I've had a lot of some videos a little more straightforward because they're more tutorial focused, and I don't think I can get as like artsy with it. But every once in a while, I'll have a video where I know I can have some fun with the edit, and those are the videos I really enjoy.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. That's interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of people do like the editing process, and it's the piece that puts me off the most. But
really?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not very creative at all, and I think that's why. So I could sit there, I could write a script probably, and then the thing that puts me off is, I'm going to have to edit this. And I'm like, no, it's just not going to happen.
Well, I mean, a lot of my first videos are not very heavily edited. Like they're just clips put over each other. There's nothing artsy about them at all. It's the artsy stuff has come later in my YouTube career. So I don't think you necessarily have to do that right in the beginning. Like you'll find your voice as an editor as you progress.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm one of those people that probably overthinks it and over engineers it when you're right. It probably doesn't need it.
Yeah, and don't worry, like I'm a classic overthinker. Like I overthink everything. There are so many videos that I've like completely made and then have just deleted because I didn't think they were good enough. Yeah, oh yeah, no, I have an incredibly high standard for what video gets put up, and it's probably too high. Like there's a lot of videos that I actually think would have been really good now, but at the time I just didn't think it was good enough, so I just deleted them and moved on.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, oh yeah, like hours and hours and hours worth of work is gone. But that's okay. Like I've learned from that and I moved on. But yeah, no, it's all about finding your voice as an editor. I said that already, but like I actually think that's a good metaphor. Is it's not something you'll wake up and know what it is, but it's as you do it, you will find your style as an editor, and yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense actually. Because you don't really necessarily know quite what you're going for when you start. But yeah, the more you do it, the more you kind of get into a rhythm and you know what you're looking for, and you kind of, like you said, you find your style. Okay, that's good, actually good to know. Maybe I could just stop overthinking it. Easier said than done. But
Just make something simple. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't need to have all the quick cuts and like the fancy slow-mo B-roll that YouTube likes now. So it doesn't need any of that. Just if you're telling a story, you can just tell the story.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely need to think of that. In terms of, I guess, I'm going to call them YouTube myths, but they're kind of, is there any misconceptions or are there things that you want to point out as a YouTuber that you're like, guys, this is what it's really like to be a YouTuber? It's not what you think it is.
It is not all glamour. I'm sure there's a lot of really high profile YouTubers that have like, huge crews and go on fancy trips and stuff like that. But most of us sit in a room. I'm sitting in a bedroom in my apartment and we just heads down work. It's not a very flashy career or anything like that. It's not, I'm not hanging out on yachts or anything like that. I'm not even a big YouTuber. Like I only have like 70 something thousand subscribers.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but compared to other people, that's not a lot at all. And that's fine. Like I'm not complaining or anything, but it's not a glamorous profession, at least from what I've seen. It's not as glamorous as everyone's made it out to be. I heard a story not too long ago, and basically kids in high school are like, oh yeah, I'm not going to go to college because I'm just going to be a YouTuber. And I'm just like, no, because making it in YouTube is not easy. I mean, it's a lot of work. I think I went almost a year without ever seeing a penny from YouTube, without ever making a penny from YouTube. Like it was a long time before I was actually making any money. And even when I was making money, I probably wasn't making money if you considered the amount of hours I was putting into YouTube versus what I was getting in return. So it's not like, oh yeah, I'm going to start uploading videos and I'm going to have a fancy car and a fancy house. It's not like that at all.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I think a lot of people do think firstly, it's like an overnight success. And two, I don't think people realize the amount of work that actually goes into it.
Yeah, I would say an average video from mine takes anywhere from 20 to 30 hours to produce. So that's almost a full week's worth of work. Now, I kind of overproduce my videos for YouTube. I could easily simplify my video process and nobody would notice the difference. I just don't for some reason, and that's just my own, because I like doing things the way I do them. But yeah, no, you could easily produce a good YouTube video in like 10 to 15 hours. I would probably say it's probably the standard YouTube length video. I know like people that do daily vlogs and stuff like that, that's probably about what they are, because you consider they have to film and then go back and edit all that stuff. But yeah, it's not glamorous at all. It's not you just grab a camera and talk to the camera and, oh, I have 1 million subscribers. It's not like that at all.
Yeah, which I think a lot of people scarily do think.
Yeah.
But yeah. Is there anything, so looking back at your kind of journey, over the last 4 or 5 years. Is there anything you wish you'd have done differently, or looking back, you would have said, actually, if I could repeat this, I would have done this, or regrets maybe?
The only thing I regret, and I don't really regret anything because you can't really change anything, but the only thing I kind of regret is not starting sooner. I think starting sooner, I had an opportunity when I was about 19, 20 to do YouTube, and I wasn't really interested in it at the time. I had a background in video. I'd done video stuff in the past, but I just wasn't interested at the time. And that's probably my biggest regret, because if I could have started around then, I don't think I would have to be dealing with having a full-time day job or anything like that. Like, I would be all in on YouTube, but you can't live in regret or anything like that. So
no. Okay. That's surprising. Okay. My follow-up question to that is, do you think it's too late for people to start YouTube? Because there's a lot of people that think that.
Nope. Anyone that tells you that is lying to you. It is not too late. YouTube is still growing. It's year over year. Audience just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's only going to keep getting bigger and bigger. But I would say, going back to finding something that you're interested in, and find your niche. Like, make it something you're interested in. Don't be like, log into YouTube, find the biggest video that has the most views and be like, oh, I'm going to do that. Because that you can't copy somebody. I've seen people on YouTube start up channels and try and imitate other people, and it's just not going to work, because if you're imitating somebody else, the person you're imitating is always going to just do better, because, well, you're copying that person. So be yourself is what I'm trying to say, and I'm not saying it very eloquently. But yeah, no, it's definitely not too late. And the other thing I would say, and this is not something I have been good about and I'm trying to be better about, is be platform agnostic. Like, if you're interested in being somebody that's on YouTube, it's not just about being on YouTube. There's other media platforms that you need to be on. Twitter, Instagram. Like, there's other places that you can grow your audience. It's not just about necessarily being a YouTuber. It's more about being a content creator. And I hate that phrase. I hate that phrase just as much as I hate influencer. I hate influencers so much. It's
I think
so
I'm with
bad.
you on that one.
But yeah, but it's about being platform agnostic. So I'm trying to be better about, like, growing an Instagram audience, growing a Twitter audience, and things like that. So that way, if for some reason my YouTube career was to ever just go away, but I had those other ones, I don't know why, I would be okay.
Yeah, no, I think actually that does make a lot of sense, because one, you have an opportunity to bring something to a different audience because they might not have seen you. And two, you're right, like, nobody knows what's actually going to happen, right? With the whole TikTok thing, right? You've got all these people that are like, oh no, the platform might go. So you're right. If you spread it across, even just a little bit, you have something to fall back on. So actually, I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah, the TikTok thing is a good point. Vine too is another one. When that went away, there was a lot of people that basically lost their job because Vine just went away overnight. And that was terrible.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good point, because I think people do think, whether it's a YouTuber or an Instagrammer or whatever, they're like, well, this is my platform. And I think that kind of approach could, and hopefully it doesn't, but it could end badly if you haven't. So no, I completely agree. So obviously your videos kind of are iPad and productivity related. Were you always into productivity, or is that something you found through the channel and doing what you do?
So I've always kind of been a productivity nerd. One of the things that I will say is I've always wanted, like I talked about, I was started creatively when I started this. I had been wanting a creative project, but it took me years to get started because I kept putting roadblocks in my way. And I think this is one of the things, like, some productivity people, like, kind of, I think, promote this accidentally, and it's a terrible thing. They make you think that you need to have, like, this perfect workspace with this perfect device and the best task manager and the best calendar. You don't need any of that. Just get started and you'll figure out the rest along the way. So I was putting those roadblocks in front of me. I was like, oh, I need a good workspace in order for me to actually work. And I didn't. I really didn't. I could have done my work anywhere. it's nice having a good workspace. Like I won't argue with somebody. It's really nice having like my own workspace and stuff like that. But don't put those those productivity blocks in front of you. Just get going in your work. So that's one of the things I try to talk about when I do talk about productivity stuff is, yes, this tool is nice, but it's not necessary for you to have. If that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. And I think that's actually a really good point, because I have done that a lot in the past, especially when it comes to things like making videos or being creative. And I think probably it is a little to do with fear. It's an excuse, right? But yeah, it's like, well, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I need the right camera, I need some lighting, or I need a great microphone, or my place is too small to film content or something. And it's just like, just get on with it.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Like you just got to make it. Like there will always be roadblocks that you know in your head that you come up with that are just trying to prevent you from working, and you just have to move past those. You just have to ignore those.
Yeah. So obviously now you're doing 2 or 3 videos a week. Do you ever run out of ideas? What's your kind of idea generation like?
Sometimes I do. But I keep a database in a service called Airtable of just ideas that I have, and I'll dump them in there. And then usually on Sundays, I go through and I plan out my week, and that's when I'll pull like a video or 2 videos aside, and that's what I'll focus on.
Okay, so
that week, yeah.
So you've got, okay, that makes sense. So there's stuff there. And in terms of your actual workflow for that video, do you ever so now, okay, say it's Sunday, you've picked out 2 videos for this next week. Do you do the whole of those 2 videos in the next 7 days, or would you have already done some planning in the idea phase? Or is it literally now I've got 7 days, I've got 2 videos, I'm starting from scratch, and by next Sunday I'll have 2 videos ready to upload?
It kind of depends on the video. Sometimes when I write the idea down, like I'll write like a brief outline, like if I'm just in that moment and I really just like, I know how this video is going to flow, I'll write the outline. One of the things that's made it a lot easier for me to produce videos is I'm not writing scripts anymore. I will just write an outline and record talking heads. So it'll just be me talking into a camera. That has really sped up my process. And actually, I think has made my videos better. I don't think they're as boring. I think when you just have like a headless voice talking and you just see a bunch of B-roll, like I think that could be really boring. At least like my watch time on YouTube is up because of that, so that's a good thing. Quickly going back to the YouTube myths, subscriber numbers and views don't matter to YouTube. It's all about watch time. It's all about watch time. You want to keep your audience engaged. If they're only watching 2 minutes of a 10-minute video, that's not great. You want them watching a majority of that video. So it's easier said than done. But yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot where I was going with all that. Yeah. Oh, my process. Yeah. It just depends on the video, really. Yeah. It really does. A lot of times I have an outline. Sometimes it's start from scratch. Sometimes they're easy videos to put together and I can see everything. Sometimes they're hard videos, and then I end up like not putting anything out for a week and then like putting out a big video the following week. Okay.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So just on a slight tangent. So you obviously then started a podcast through your YouTube journey. What was the thought process behind that, and why the podcast, and kind of why not the podcast anymore?
So one of the reason why we started the podcast to begin with was because we wanted a place where we can just casually talk. And it was a really nice place to have. I really enjoyed doing the podcast with my co-host Jeff. It was a lot of fun. We ended it because just our schedules. We were working opposite times. I've been really busy with video stuff. He's really busy with family stuff and work. So it just wasn't really working out anymore. So we ended it. I don't know if it'll ever come back, or maybe one day when things calm down a little bit. But the fall tech season, so like right now, is like the busiest time for anyone that does like tech YouTube or tech anything, just because everything's coming out. Next Tuesday we have an Apple event. Like I am very nervous about how this October is going to go.
Yeah. So actually that segues very nicely into my next question. And in terms of if you have a plan for a week, and obviously Apple events, sometimes you can plan them, but when there is drops that are out of the blue or something, do you react to them, or do you still stick to your schedule and then kind of think about it the week after?
It depends on what it is. So the best example that I could think of is earlier this year, we got new iPad Pros, and then the Magic Keyboard came out. So I had some stuff planned for that week, and I scrapped it, got my new iPad Pro in, and focused on making content about that. But then I returned to that other stuff that I was working on. Other times, if I don't think it's relevant to my channel, if like when Apple announced the new iPhone SE, I was like, okay, cool, not really relevant to my channel, and I'm not going to buy one. So I'm just going to ignore it and move on. Other people will talk about it. I position myself not to be a news person. So like, I don't think anyone comes to my channel expecting to hear the latest tech news. At least I hope not, because if you are, you aren't getting a bunch.
Yeah.
I knew with my schedule and having to work and having a day job, I wouldn't be able to react to news immediately when it needed to be. So I would always be late. I would never be, not even necessarily the first person, but like within like an appropriate time frame.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think that's also one of the things that I've thought about in the past in, my dreamland of me being a tech YouTuber. I'm like, I definitely can't be a reaction person because I absolutely can't keep up with that, and it would drive me insane.
Yeah. It's just, and plus, again, going back to what you're interested in, it doesn't really interest me. Like, I don't really necessarily care about like the Apple business news or anything like that. I don't care how many billions of dollars they made or anything like that. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. It's not interesting to me. So I'd rather just talk about the stuff that I'm interested in, which is iPads, keyboards, headphones, backpacks, things like that.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of, is there ever a video or stuff you want to talk about that you think it doesn't fit in, so you don't? Or if it does, you just do it?
Not really. If there's something I want to do, I'll just do it. It's not the best YouTube strategy. If you're doing YouTube, it's definitely, find your niche, stick to that niche. But I think that's a terrible way to live as a creator. Like, it's your space. Make whatever you want, and don't worry about what the algorithm or people think. Like, just make what you want to make. I have videos on my channel about the Nintendo Switch. I don't really ever do video game stuff, but I made one anyways. I love like travel backpacks and stuff like that. So I've made a few videos about that. I like mechanical keyboards, so I've made videos about that. So those things don't necessarily fit on my channel, but I wanted to do them, so I did them. They didn't do very well. Not a lot of those videos they're definitely not the best videos I've ever made, like best performing videos. But I'm glad I made them because it was something I wanted to make at the time.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's good to hear. And it's nice to hear there's a fellow backpack nerd. I also love backpacks.
What's your favorite backpack?
So I think it's one I don't actually have, and it's one I've had my eye on for ages. It's a Tom Bin. It's the Cynic 30 liter, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
I've had my eye on that for a long time. But there's a Bellroy one that I bought. I haven't got to test out because of COVID and stuff. That is very cool. And surprisingly, there's an Arkido, I don't know how you actually pronounce that I managed to get for like £35. That's actually risen to the top of my list. But my daily one was an Air for work. What about
you? So right now, my favorite bag is it's the Peak Design. I guess you can't really see it. It's right behind me. It's the Peak Design Everyday Bag, the 35 liter one. It's really nice. I really like it. I bought it last year, and it was the last backpack I bought. This is the longest period of time I've gone without buying a backpack because I've just been home and like I don't have it. I'm like, I keep looking at backpacks. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to get this, and then I'm like, what are you gonna do with this? Like, so like it just gets added to my wish list. I'm like, maybe one day, but by then like some other backpack will be out that I want. So it's like I'm not gonna order anything right now. So I've just been ordering mechanical keyboards.
Oh, it's got to be something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I need to indulge myself somehow. So
For
I've
sure.
I've just been trying out keyboards.
Yes. Okay. No. Funnily enough, both backpacks I bought at the beginning of COVID, so that was a bit silly. But mechanical keyboard actually. Now you're a mechanical keyboard nerd. So I don't have one. I recently bought the MX keys.
Okay.
Which I love, but I've always wanted a mechanical keyboard, and there are some things that put me off, and there are obviously the obvious things that make me go, I absolutely want one. Do you have a hybrid recommendation? So obviously I type all day.
Okay.
So I don't want anything to tire me out. So I like the low profile. And that's where it gets a bit like, oh.
So I don't, hang on one second. Let me grab mine really quick.
Yeah.
So I have this one right here. It's the Keychron K2. I just ordered the K8, which is just like this one, but it's a little more spread out. So there's spaces between the arrow keys and things like that.
Right.
This is a great keyboard, but obviously it's not a hybrid one. But Keychron does have a low profile one. I have not used it. I personally don't like those. I like the big ones. But they make good keyboards, so they might be a place to look. They're pretty decently priced, like as far as mechanical keyboards go, because those are not cheap at all. But Keychron stuff is pretty good. Plus, it's wireless also, so you don't get
right. Okay, good.
And that's what got me on their stuff is they make wireless keyboards. Now they don't use the MX Cherry keys. The MX Cherry keys are my favorite keys. They have their own, I forget what they're called, but they have their own keys. But I am a big fan of the blue switches because of like the way it sounds and the tactile feel and stuff like that. And their blue switches are really good.
Okay. I think the thing is that I've only recently in the last few months really got like, oh, I think I need one, and I've got nowhere to go and test them. So
yeah.
That's what's got me.
I don't know what their return policy is. Maybe look into that. But yeah, they have a low profile one, and I've heard good things about it. I know a couple of people who have it and they like it, but I like the big ones. I like the big.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call them. The tall profile, I guess.
Yeah. The traditional type, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Sorry, totally off on a tangent there.
No.
But coming back to hardware, so obviously you are 100%. I do everything on the iPad now. How was it starting to edit on the iPad, and what was it that made you go, actually, you know, something I could use just this?
So if I remember correctly, because it's been a while, is November. No. When was it? I don't remember. Anyways, a few years ago, an app called LumaFusion came out, and it's basically the best and really only option at editing real videos on the iPad. It's a multi-track video editor, has great keyboard shortcut support, great effects, all the stuff. I could go on all day about it. But I started using that, and I was like, hey, I could do this to edit my videos. And then when I realized my iPad Pro was faster than my MacBook Pro at the time, I was like, well, why am I even using this thing? Because my MacBook Pro, when I bought it, I didn't buy it for editing video. I bought it to write code, because before I started the blog, I tried my hand at developing apps, and I was not good at that. So it didn't have a good GPU in it. It just had like the base Intel GPU. I upped the CPU and I upped the storage. So it wasn't really great for video editing, because if you're going to edit videos, you want someone with a decent GPU. And I realized my iPad Pro was faster, so I started doing it all on that. But before that, I had already started moving basically a lot of my workflow from my Mac to my iPad, because I was just like, I like working from this thing. This is a fun computer. I like this computer. And then I just got to the point where the video editing was the last straw. I found LumaFusion, started editing video on that, and was just like, okay, I'm done with the Mac. Don't need it anymore. And I haven't really looked back.
Amazing. So yeah, your series on editing and stuff is what I think made me really consider the iPad, which is funny because I actually don't edit. But I was like, someday I think I want to, like that dream was always in the back of my head. And now I'm at the stage where I have a MacBook Air, but it's a 2012 and I'm ready to upgrade. I did try the 2020 MacBook Air, but it just felt exactly the same. So I sent it back. I was like, this is pointless. I'm not spending that money on something that's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I'm now thinking, obviously with the silicon chip Macs coming out soon, I'm like, well, I can either go for a Pro, or I'm still having this conversation about myself because of you of, do I do the LumaFusion thing and attempt it on an iPad? But my iPad is the 10.5 inch. It was that, one-off year. And I'm thinking that's a small screen. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to be the same experience.
It wasn't. I tried editing video from just an 11-inch iPad Pro a few years ago. When in 2018, when they did the big refresh of the iPad Pro and got rid of the home button and stuff like that, I bought the 11-inch one first because I was like, oh, I want this ultra portable computer. And editing video was the thing that made me take it back because it was just too small.
Right.
I would say if you're gonna edit video, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is the way to go. Just because, like, you can see. I know, I'm the worst about this, but there's just more you could see. Unless you want to hold out and wait and see if Apple adds true external monitor support to the iPad, maybe next year, maybe iPad OS 15, then if Apple adds true external monitor support and it works the way it should work, I could see me using the 11-inch iPad Pro as my main iPad, or whatever the smaller version of the iPad Pro is at the time. Just because at that point, when I'm editing video, I could just plug it into a monitor and edit video on a bigger screen. And then when I want a small computer, I can just have a small computer.
Got it. Yes, you're right. That would actually be the dream. That would be the hybrid solution.
Oh, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. Probably way too much time.
Well, at least your job is revolves about. I spend that much time thinking about it. I've got like no benefit of thinking about it. I'm just like, do I? Don't I? And then people get mad at me because I'm still having this conversation and I'm telling them about my thoughts.
It's okay. So Jeff, who I mentioned earlier, my co-host of the podcast, leading up to the 2018 iPad refresh. So that whole time, like, it was rumored, we knew it was coming. We knew the 10.5 was going to go to 11-inch. We knew everything was going to get, like, the bezels were going to shrink, the home button was going to go away. We knew the whole thing. I was texting him daily or multiple times a day, going back and forth on, do I get the 12.9 and the 11? Ended up buying the 11, and within a week I returned it and got the 12.9. So
okay, you sound exactly like me.
Yeah, so it's totally okay. You're not alone.
That makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah,
I did it all summer with the MacBook. I was like, do I buy one? Don't I buy one? And I bought one. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, nope, this isn't it. I'm sending it back. And they were like, I can't do this. Because I think I do it every year. I'm like, they've got a new Mac, obviously. Is it time to upgrade? And they're like, I literally can't listen to you anymore. I'm like, fine.
Yeah. Yep. I totally understand where you're coming from.
Glad it's not just me. Thank you. That's made me feel a lot better. What are your favorite apps on the iPad?
Ooh, I would definitely say LumaFusion is up there, mostly because it's what enabled me to work from the iPad full time. Things 3 is a great task manager. Yes. It's probably my favorite task manager on the iPad and iOS just in general. Drafts is an excellent note-taking and writing app. I use it for everything. I use it as a scratch pad, long-form writing. Basically, all my writing happens there. Working Copy is an app that I've been using a lot lately for my day job. It is a Git client, so it syncs with my Git repository for work. And then also I manage my website through Git as well, and that's how I kind of interact with it on my iPad, or actually just interact with it, period. And it has excellent shortcut support, which leads me probably to my ultimate favorite app, Shortcuts, which used to be Workflow. It's a great app. It's how you can do automation on the iPad. I'm a big proponent of automation. I really like automation. But yeah, I'd probably say the ultimate app is Shortcuts.
Okay, again, another great segue. You're lining them up for me. This is great. So firstly, you did get me onto drafts, so thank you for that.
Oh, good. Oh, awesome.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Although I don't have the premium version, so I don't think I have the full like folder stuff. So it's between things and drafts. I think that's where I am. And actually, side note, you also got me onto Sofa.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which is great. So yes, thank you for that too. But yeah, shortcuts. You also got me onto shortcuts and doing it properly. But your shortcuts, some of them are like, they're insane and they're great, but some of them are like so over my head. And I'm like, oh, damn it. I just wish I knew, because I can see how beneficial they are for your videos. And I can see how much time they save and how great they could be. And I'm just such a shortcut noob, which is, I don't know if it's because I just haven't spent time with it, and it keeps obviously changing and I can't keep up with it. So all the shortcuts I had are like not relevant anymore, because like with the new iOS update, it's like, well, we've got like sleep now, so half my shortcuts are irrelevant, and I'm like, oh, I have to redo this.
Yeah, what I kind of wish they would stop tweaking the editor and things like that, because I had a bunch of shortcuts tutorials that just aren't relevant anymore because they changed the way the editor works. They changed it for the better, so it's not the end of the world. But I am starting a new series. I already put out one video called Shortcuts 101 that kind of goes over the very basics of shortcuts. I did that last weekend. It's pretty new. If you just go to my channel, it'll be one of the top videos there. And that goes over the very basics of shortcuts, and then I'm going to kind of slowly ratchet it up from there. Like I'm going to cover a lot of the kind of the basics at first, and kind of, go up to a little bit more moderate, and then eventually I'll go up to like advanced API stuff and working with dictionaries and things like that. But that's way off.
That's the series I absolutely need, because I've watched pretty much all of your other ones, I think, and yeah, the potential is great. And you're right, I think they have changed it for the better, because it does look more user-friendly and less daunting. But obviously it's almost like I need to scrap everything I've done and just kind of almost again.
And I get why they did it. I totally understand why they did it. But yeah, it wasn't the greatest move. It kind of sucks, because you're just like, hey, it breaks a lot for a lot of people. I got a lot of emails from people saying they didn't understand it anymore. So that's why I'm kind of doing this series, to kind of just go back to the basics. We're just, even though I did a bunch of tutorials covering the basics already, I'm just considering those not relevant and those old. So let me just start from scratch here.
Okay, I totally must have missed the last one. That's YouTube's fault for not notifying.
Yeah, that's another thing. YouTube myths or getting started on YouTube. One of the things I need to be better about is promoting my own work. You can't rely on the algorithm. If you're relying on the algorithm, you're going to have a bad day. So a lot of people do newsletters, people promote stuff on Twitter and things like that. I've been kind of working on the idea of starting in like a monthly free newsletter where I like talk about something I'm working on with the iPad, maybe a shortcut, but also links to like all the videos I put out that month.
Yes, that would be awesome. You would definitely have me signing up for that one.
Okay. Well, I need to work on it. Maybe that's something I'll do on Monday.
Yeah. Not to give you any work to do or anything, but
no, it's been something I've been meaning to do. But then the Apple event was announced, and I had one ready to go. Then the Apple event was announced, and I'm like, I'm just gonna wait, and that way, I can kind of like ride the Apple event hype almost. Yes. Timing is everything when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, you're right, because that's what everyone's going to be talking about. So my last question is, what do you wish the iPad would, not the iPad, what if you could improve the iPad / iOS, what would you do?
I would add Apple's Pro apps to the iPad. This has been something I've been asking for a while. So Xcode, Final Cut, and Logic are all apps I would love to see on the iPad, and I think would do really well on the iPad. Obviously, it would take a lot of work on Apple's behalf to bring them over, so I don't think it would just be like hey, let's bring them on over. There would be some work involved, but those are apps that I would love to see. Just because I think there's a lot of people that could benefit from them on the iPad. I don't know how much sense they would make on the iPhone. Probably not. I could see them just being iPad apps, but who knows?
Do you think Sorry, I know that I said that was the last question, but do you think
that's okay?
With the whole silicon shift, though, and the fact that they're now not quite the same, but they're running almost the same, that is almost about to happen, or not necessarily?
I think it's a big, huge help because they will have to work on the same architecture. So at that point, why not? Obviously, there would need to be some UI changes and things like that because the iPad is still a touch-centered device, even though there is cursor support and things like that. So there would have to be UI changes, but UI changes are a lot easier to do than engine changes to the whole like core system of Final Cut or the codecs it supports. That's the other thing iPad OS would need is codec support. Like it doesn't support raw video files and things like that. So if they were going to bring Final Cut over and say, hey, professionals, you can use this device to edit your pro videos on, they would need to support those pro video codecs.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Sorry, there's just a comment come through that's caught my attention.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we've got somebody else streaming at the same time, so we've got a conflict of people watching. But don't worry, you can watch the replay if you are not watching this live. It will be up. Chris, do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on YouTube. I'm Christopher Lawley, Lawley, or you can go to my website, theUntitledSite.com, and there's links to all my stuff there.
Amazing. Guys, watching the replay or even watching live, I will link all of Chris's stuff in the descriptions and in the podcast audio as well tomorrow night. So if you don't remember that, don't worry, it will all be linked up. But Chris, thank you so much. I've had an incredibly fun hour talking to you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Amazing. Right, guys, I'll see you next week. And yeah, awesome. Thank you, Chris. Bye, guys.